Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sabrina, and I am a hairstylist, a business owner, and an educator. And so today I wanted to share a story about the worst client I've ever had. I've been doing hair almost 11 years, and in that time frame, I've had several clients over the years that I classify as crazy. And it's the reason I classify them as crazy. It's they've asked me particular questions, had particular behavior, things like that that are not normal. And I've got it's like every year I'll get a couple. Like there's someone that I have to deal with, but there's one in particular that I will probably never forget. It's when I was doing hair in North Carolina. I had a woman come call, and she was trying to book online, and she was a hair model for another company, like a hair show, and she didn't love her hair, and so she wanted to see if I could fix it. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So she comes in and she wanted to be like a copper, more of a coppery brown than anything. And I remember we fixed her hair, and she liked it when she left. She calls me back like a couple hours later and saying that it's too coppery. So she comes back in, and I redo the color, and then she just got to where she's like, she loved her hair, and she got to where she wanted me to start doing her hair regularly. Well, the issue is that every time I did this woman's hair, like if she was in the salon, she loved it when she left, and then she would get home, and then like maybe 2 to 3 days later she would send me a picture. It was always a really crappy bathroom selfie with terrible lighting, and she would find something wrong with it, like the hue wasn't spot on, whatever. She just didn't like it. And or she'd be in the salon and we'd do her color, and she wouldn't like it then, and then a couple days later she'd message me and say, like, oh, never mind, I love it now, I got used to it. So it's just always, I never knew where I stood with this person. And I did her hair probably, I would say, almost a year. And it got to where every time like I saw her on my books or she would contact me, like I would just, like, I hated going to work, like I hated dealing with her. And I felt this like undying need to like satisfy this woman and make her happy and like be a people pleaser to her. And my boss at the time, she finally was like, why do you keep putting yourself in this situation for this person that you don't even really like? Like, what is it about her that you feel like you need to please her? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it just, like, it affected me, and I felt like I had to like make this woman happy. So finally it got to where she started stressing me out so much, and I literally, I hated her. Like, I hated seeing her name pop up, and we had online booking at the time. So my boss is like, you can block her. She's like, just block her online so that way, because the girl mostly booked online, and she's like, just block her where she can't book online. So I did. Guess what? She made another profile, changed her name. She comes in, still stuck with her again. And of course, I didn't want to be mean and be like, oh, yeah, I blocked you online. Because she's like, I was having a hard time, like, with my other profile. So I changed I just changed my name, and I was able to get in. I was like, oh, I totally just blamed it on our system that we were having issues with it. When all along I actually had blocked her. So still kept doing her hair. We finally just turned off online booking, mainly because of her and some other people. And I made the mistake one day, after I did her hair. There was this little wine shop by work where I worked at, and she was like, "Hey, you should go get a glass of wine with me." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." It's the end of the day. I didn't like this girl, but I was like, I had a long day. She was my last client for the day. I was like, sure, I could definitely use a glass of wine. So I walked down to this little shop with her and get some wine. And I guess after that, she thought we were like best friends or something, where she felt like she could just text me all hours of the day, night, whatever. And it was always messages about her hair, though. Like, it was still like, what if I did this to my hair? What if I did that to my hair? And it was just obnoxious behavior after a while. It wasn't like, hey, can I ask you a hair question? Which is totally fine. I have clients that still do that now. But I mean, it was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. She would be messaging me or calling me, asking me stuff about her hair. And I'm like, what the hell? So we turned off online booking. I made the mistake of going to get wine with her. I was like, no, this is, I just can't stand this girl anymore. Like, she drives me nuts. And she'd also had confessed to me that she had just gotten a DUI. She had a cocaine problem. So if that tells you anything about her craziness, it was emphasized on drug use. I think there was still some crazy before the drugs got involved. But anyways, so I started ignoring her. I turned off online booking completely. I got to her, I would be really short, wouldn't really message her back. I just kept saying I didn't have availability. I didn't have availability. Then she pulled at my heartstrings. And she sent me a message one day and said that I think it was her 30th birthday, was going to be like in a couple of days, and that she really, really wanted her hair done. And that her grades were showing that she was going to go on this trip for her birthday, that it would really make her feel good. Something like she'd had like a shitty week or something like that. So I was like, okay. So I was like, fine, I'll be nice, I'll get her in. So I made room for her. I did not have room in my schedule, but I made room for her. I stayed late, I believe. We did the same color we had been doing for a while that she'd finally seemed satisfied with. And she was happy when she left. She tipped me. I was like, oh, okay, she wasn't that bad today. 2 or 3 days later goes by, and sure enough, I get a message from her, and she tells me that she doesn't like her hair, that her color is not what it normally is, and that she was so upset with it that she had to cut out her highlights because she felt they were too chunky, and then wanted me to fix it. She cut out her highlights. How can I fix that? I can't, So I was like, oh my God. And I was like, what is wrong with this person? And so finally I talked to my husband about it. I was like, what do I do with this girl? Like, she makes me feel like shit. I was like, she makes me feel bad about myself. I was like, I feel like I can never make her happy. I was like, but all in all, she's the one that has issues where she cut out her own highlights. Like, who does that? And I don't do chunky highlights. So I was like, what do you mean they're chunky? They were like in the underneath. They weren't even on top. So like they wouldn't have been chunky. So my husband's like, just tell her you can't do her hair anymore. And I was like, she's the type of person that's going to leave me a bad review. And I was like, I just don't want to deal with it. He's like, Sabrina, just fire her. He's like, just don't do her hair. She puts you in this situation, so stop doing her hair. I was like, okay. So I was really professional. And because I knew with her personality type, it could turn into like a very ugly conversation. So I texted her back and I was like, thank you so much for, your business over the last year. Unfortunately, I don't feel like I'm a stylist for you. I can't make you happy. I don't feel that I can make you happy, and I think it would be best if you just found someone else from now on to do your hair. She flipped out, where she sent me a message back and was saying like I couldn't take constructive criticism, that she'd given me so much money. She always tipped me. She'd sent me so many people, like all this stuff, and she just didn't understand why I couldn't fix her hair. And I was like, it's not necessarily about that. I was like, it's about the fact that every time I do your hair, you either like it when you're here and then you message me later and say that you don't. I was like, or you hate it when you're here and then you're like, I'll just deal with it. And then you message me in a couple days and say you like it. And I was like, and you cut out your own highlights. I was like, I physically can't fix that. Like, the only way to fix that is extensions, and it depends on where you cut out chunks of your hair. And I just told her, I was like, I thank you for the constructive criticism, but I just think it's best. And I finally just quit messaging her back because she was trying to pick a fight with me, and she started like cussing at me through these messages. She called me a couple times and I just wouldn't answer. So in turn, I blocked her number. And next thing I know, I'm getting bad reviews on every social media site you can possibly think of. Like we had our booking system, Vagaro. She left me bad reviews on that. She left me bad reviews on Facebook, on Yelp, on Google. I I don't think there was, maybe Instagram at the time, but anyway, and they weren't even good bad reviews is the funny thing. It wasn't like even explaining like the circumstance or the situation. It was just like, doesn't work with client, doesn't listen to client, doesn't care about making client happy. And so at first it really, bothered me because I was like, why is she out to get me? Like, what have I done to her? Like, I felt like I went above and beyond to help this girl. And then, my boss is like, she's crazy. Like, she has a drug problem. She's clearly got other issues going on in her life, and she's just choosing to take it out on you because you're willing to listen to her. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So I just slowly got over. I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, it bothered me for several weeks because she made me feel bad about myself and like my abilities and my talents. But that's the thing. I had one crazy client that complained about my work, and I had hundreds of others that loved me and were always so thankful, that sent me tons of other clients, always gave me tips and presents, and showed, how much they appreciated me. But I let one girl get into my head and make me feel bad about myself, and so it's so funny now because I guess this has been probably 5 to 6 years ago. This all happened, and the funny thing is I've never forgotten her, and I never will. And it does, like, now, like, it is funny to me. But she's by far the worst client I've ever had. And it's just because I think why she bothered me so bad, for one, I mean, she cut out her own highlights. Who does that? But it's because how she made me feel about myself. And I, over the years, have vowed, to never, or to stop taking clients or continue to see a client who makes me feel bad about myself just because of the money. To me, it's not worth the money. And sometimes my husband doesn't get this. He's like, you need to make money. And I'm like, I do. And I love making money. But at the same time, it comes down to, if someone makes me feel bad about myself, or I dread going to work because of this particular person, I will no longer do their hair because I love what I do. I absolutely adore my job. I love the connections I get to make with people. I love the money that I get to make. There's so many rewarding factors about what I do. But it also comes down to, if I'm allowing another person to get into my head and make me feel bad about myself, then it's a boundaries issues for me. Like, I am hurting and harming myself in my mental state to please someone that probably can't be pleased in the first place. Now, that's not to say if a client's unhappy with their hair, or, they want me to adjust something, I am more than willing to do that. Like, that's just part of being a service provider. Not everyone's going to be happy, and mostly it comes back to, like, a lack of a good consultation. And most things are really, really easy. Oh, this one here keeps getting my face. Most fixes are really easy. It's just a slight adjustment, right? That's not to say that it's the people that just constantly make you just dread going to work. They make you feel bad. Like, you can't wait to get away from them just to breathe and just have a moment to yourself, to regroup. So that's what I always tell stylists now, especially a lot of younger stylists that are in school, and I get to mentor things like that. They'll have there's usually always someone that makes them feel bad. And sometimes it can even be family, which is really hard. You have someone that expects something for nothing. They complain every time you do something. They're always asking for discounts, asking for free things, texting you at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, or calling you at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, or expecting you to go on your day off to accommodate them. It comes down to a boundaries thing where it's really, really hard to set boundaries in place. It's very hard. But over the years, because of this girl, mainly, I have learned to set boundaries, with my clientele. That way I continue to love my job, and I continue to be happy and in the career field that I picked, and so that's always my advice to them. If you have someone in your life that is crazy, or that definition close to that crazy, you got to cut them out. And it's there. You don't have to be mean or ugly about it. There's professional, kind ways to tell someone you no longer can be around them and their energy. But I always tell people, you know, if you really love someone and you see that maybe you just let them overstep boundaries, set up a boundary and see if they're willing to accept that boundary. And if they're not, then that's where just cut off the fat, get rid of them. Their money is not worth the pain and the discomfort that they put you in. It's truly not worth it. And you'll be so much happier and you will attract more clients that you love to serve if you get rid of the negative energy vampires, such as my worst client ever. So if you guys have a terrible client story, I would absolutely love to hear about it. I would love to write a book one day on like all the crap that people ask or things like that. They're just terrible. But if you have a terrible client story, please leave it in the comments. I would love to hear about it. If you have any questions or any video requests, also leave those down in the comments, and don't forget to like and share this post, and I would love if you guys would subscribe. That way I can continue to grow my channel. So thank you guys so much. I hope you have an awesome week. Bye.